not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
I'm Shelby Wagner. I'm author of a book called Learning to Dance in the Rain, which is the inspiration behind this broadcast and these podcasts, Learning to Dance in the Rain. Welcome. I hope to bring you or plan to bring you guests and other news trends that I find that might help us towards healing and towards learning to be resilient. Today, I have the pleasure again of introducing my pastor, Carl Litchfield, from the Burr Oak Methodist and the Mendon Methodist Church here in Michigan. And our topic today is new every day, new every day. So, Carl, would you come on out here? You're becoming a regular.
Hello.
First Tuesday of the month, aren't you?
Yeah. I might actually remember well ahead of the time. I need your reminders so far, Shelby. But it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
I very much appreciate you being here and helping me convey these messages. And today I'm kind of looking forward to new beginnings or new every day.
New every morning. Yep.
Every morning, new every morning. Where did that title come from?
Well, I plan my sermons out a month or two in advance. And I'll just spend time with the Lord in prayer. And I think, Lord, what do you want to bring out? What do you want me to speak on? Mm-hmm. And January, with the beginning of the new year, I thought along the lines of new every morning. There's a new opportunity of the new year. There's a new opportunity for a new beginning for us at the beginning of the year. Many people make those New Year's resolutions and try to create a new beginning for themselves and their personality and their habits and that sort of thing. So what the Lord suggested was new every morning. Now that phrase comes out of the book of Lamentations. You don't often hear the book of Lamentations quoted, but there is one significant passage in there right in the heart of the whole book. There's only 5 chapters in the book, but it's the middle of the 3rd chapter, which means it's right in the middle of the entire book. There are these hopeful verses that come out. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. That's where I got the phrase. They are new every morning. Great is God's faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those who hope in him, whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks God. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is, and that's the end of the reading. And out of that passage, that's the basis for one of our older and more, to me, wonderful hymns that we have in the hymnal. Great is thy faithfulness.
Very favorite one. I know a lot of people that said that's their favorite hymn.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like, I can sing it for you.
Oh, I'd love to hear you sing.
Okay. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever wilt be. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. I only sing one more verse. Summer and winter and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. I think, Shelby, there's a lot of people that are watching this podcast that have had experiences in life similar to yours of having been lost a partner through one cause or another, being widowed or going through divorce, and trying to find a way to get started all over again, and find a way to meet someone in a safe way, and all of this is brand new. I mean, when we were teenagers, of course, meeting someone and dating for a while and trying to find out if this person and ourselves, we can get along, we really like each other, and doing all that initial creation of a relationship. Now that we knew how to do that when we were teenagers. I'm not so sure about how in the world do you start all over again? New every morning. There's new chances, new opportunities, but there's new possibilities in making mistakes or getting hurt again. I thank you for your writing, Learning to Dance in the Rain, and sharing your experiences. I think what you have shared has been tremendous help to a lot of people.
That's my goal. My passion is helping other people to recover, to face their demons and go on to rebuild their lives. And you reminded me of one man that I talked to early on. He says, I just lost my wife of 50 years. He says, I have no idea how to start dating again.
Oh, no.
And I said, well, just be yourself.
Right.
And that's basically little by little. My son always used to say, baby steps, Mom. And that's what we have to remember. It's little by little. You don't have to be a professional immediately.
Oh, no.
Of us never become a professional. And so, but little by little.
Daily gaining experience.
Right. Right. So in that song, let's see, I was lost my notes here for a moment, but here we go. So renewal, what is renewal? Renewal is building, dedicating our lives to
refreshing. Something is like an old barn has been standing for a long time and it's beginning to get a little bit of a lean, but you really need that barn. Renewal would mean bringing in the equipment and the people knowledgeable and skilled. And perhaps if you are fortunate, you are married to one such as that. It would not be me, but they would know how to straighten out the building and how to jack up the places that are sagging, and how to reinforce and replace the beams that are broken, or the places where rain has gotten in and the wood is rotted and that sort of thing, to restore to where it's safe and usable once again.
Yeah, my son was remodeling trying to restore a house that had been built in 1922.
Wow.
And the basement had been spent most of its life underwater, I think.
Oh no. Oh
And
no.
he wasn't expecting when he got into it, he was going to have to replace some of the, the beams that held the house up even. And
Wow. Wow.
uh,
That's
I
major,
can
major
imagine
work.
start, start like that and do what he did to reinforce that building and bring it back to looks pretty nice now, actually.
How much time did he have to put into it, be able to get it to a place of where it's usable again?
Well, I would say I don't really know exactly when they found out that that was going to be a problem, but it took several weeks. Several
Okay.
weeks to
Okay. A
get
big project.
stuff, to prop it up and so on. But yep. And Rick
Wow.
found the front wall of his, or the roadside wall of his house that he's restoring, was caving inward.
Oh,
And
really?
he found a company that came and dug down and put braces in and straightened up that wall, and has, I don't know what you call them, pins or something
Okay.
that check
Okay.
it every year to make sure it's not caving in again. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So where there's a will, there's a way. My mother always said.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah. And I think the unwavering hope in the midst of challenges. I think
Yeah. That's important.
resilience is the ability to bounce back from, maybe to get through our challenges,
Hmm. Hmm.
to bounce back and rebuild. And that's
Yeah.
what we do
Yeah.
with our lives also, right?
Yeah. Right. Right. And that word, one word you spoke that just kind of caught my ear, especially, was hope. Um,
Mhm.
Hope is the one thing that causes us to put ourselves out there to go out and try to do things that we have not done in a long time, or maybe have never done before. But hoping for, what do we hope for? Some new outcome, or some better arrangement in living, or to overcome loneliness, or any of those important things that um, whatever kinds of dissatisfaction might be in our life, to hope for, and we go out and try to create and bring into being a different reality, a better life.
Mhm.
I think that hope is that's the catalyst for trying all these different new beginnings that people are and so much in need of.
So where does one start? I mean, does it start with the hope? Does it? Um,
Well, I think it starts, unfortunately, I think it starts with dissatisfaction. Um, After someone's widowed, perhaps, and the grieving process has continued for quite some time, I think part of the person's recovery, that shows that they are beginning to recover, is the fact that maybe they want to get out and be with friends once more, or maybe they want to kind of revitalize their social life. Maybe they, uh, uh, um, uh, or maybe there's someone that, I'm thinking along in terms of someone that, as a part of their grieving process, they've kind of hibernated. They've gone their into their home and stayed there to protect themselves, and to give them privacy while they grieve. And then they're beginning to want a little daylight. They're beginning to feel a need for a social life, and they're wanting to reconnect with friends and that sort of thing. So something is beginning to change there, and that's what moving them towards getting out, reconnecting, going out and socializing, getting involved in groups and activities and things like that, and putting themselves out there for whatever kind of interactions and whatever kinds of friendships, whatever new relationships might emerge out of that.
mhm.
So I think it really, the unfortunate side of that is it starts with dissatisfaction. There's a hurt inside that we want to address. We want to overcome that.
I'm taking notes here.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. I thought for a moment, I thought, oh, Shelby's Shelby's camera froze.
No, I
No.
notes here. Tomorrow I'm being interviewed on another podcast, and I get to be
Are
the
you?
yeah.
Well.
I'm talking about resilience,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and of course, bringing up my books and advertising them that.
Sure. Of
But
course. Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was getting some ideas on that. Um, do you have a time when a story that you might share with us about
Well,
something
I
you
can
want?
remember. I can remember my time when I was still single, and I was growing more and more dissatisfied with being single, and I had a I had a problem to overcome. It was really shyness. I'm an introvert, and it would be hard. It was hard for me to make connections or to go to a dance and go to a bar or something like that and try to ask a girl and that sort of thing for a dance or to get acquainted or something like that. I also had the handicap. This was the early 70s, and I was in the military, and I had a short haircut, and all the cool guys had long hair and everything. So I had an inability to meet young ladies at that moment, and that was distressing to me. That was distressing to me. I began to ask. My faith in God was reawakening at that time also, and I began to pray to God about it. About, is there anybody out there for me? I didn't see any way of finding anyone, and it took a matter of years. The last year or so that I was in the Air Force, and the first year that I was out and I started college. And it was early in that first fall as I was starting school that I met Jerry. And that friends I put us in a place where we could meet and get acquainted and that sort of thing. It was a party where there's many people invited, and Jerry was one and I was one. And we at that point I was so excited about college. I was so yeah, okay, that's fine. But I was so excited about classes and reading and that sort of thing. I really wasn't thinking social life and that sort of thing. So the thing that changed that whole picture is that after I'd been to that party and met Jerry, about 3 weeks later she called me up and asked me out. So you
Oh.
see, I needed that nudge. I needed that nudge. And our mutual friend had told her, now he's shy. He's not going to call you. You're going to have to call him. And problem solved. Long haul. But the beginning of a relationship, it was fun. It was enjoyable. And I was ready to get into a deeper and more meaningful relationship at that time. I think at that time I was 20 years old and just turning 21, I think.
Uh-huh.
Probably, when I started college, I just turned 21. And that's when we met. I believe we were 22. I was 22. Jerry was 23 when we got married. So we had that first year together. Yeah, but I was dissatisfied. I really wanted a more meaningful relationship at that point. So there's that source of that desire growing into me to have within me to have something more meaningful in my life.
Right. Well, I started playing the organ at church when I was 16 as a senior in high school.
Wow.
And I, of course, then joined the youth group. We had a senior high and youth group, and it was such a tight group that we stayed together through college, and we
Wow.
dated each other and we did things together. But there was no. I knew that the one that was for me was not in the group.
There was no
But
serious relationship
I got
possible or
right. Well, just after I graduated, I did meet one of the guys that came back from. He was in the service, and we started. Well, we went out one time before he went back to where he was stationed, and So then he said, "Will you write to me?" And I said, "Sure." So we wrote for a year, and then I went. He was stationed in Hawaii, and I went to Hawaii to see him.
Wow. Well,
When I came back, I thought we were engaged, and so I didn't, pursue any other endeavors. And then when he came home, here I was looking forward to being reunited, and I got dumped.
oh no. Oh no. You
And
thought he was
that
serious.
was
Oh
quite
no.
heartbreaking. And
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure.
So finally, when I got enough nerve to go and talk to my pastor and and tell him the whole sad story, and
Right.
he he put me in touch with a singles a group that was down um, in on the edge of Troy, Southfield, I think it was.
Okay. Okay.
So that's where then a friend and I started going down there, and that's where I met my husband. Uh,
Well,
but like you, we I met him in October, and I think in November he was engaged to somebody else. So I said I really made a good impression.
oh yeah. Why golly.
But by May, come and find out they had broken up, and uh,
Oh,
we went to Frankenmuth for a festival parade and all of that.
right, right,
German,
right.
and I didn't unknown to me, he had decided that was the day he was going to get acquainted with me, more acquainted, and
Huh.
I did not want to go to Detroit and then go right by my house on the way to Frankenmuth. So I arranged with someone else to pick me up on the way. So when he got to the church, I wasn't there. So
Oh no.
that kind of quelled his attention. But then when we got up to Frankenmuth, he saw me get out of this car.
Well, he thought you stood him up, but
Right. So
you actually saw each other up at
yeah,
Frankenmuth.
so we
Oh,
spent the day together, and then I was going to on Monday. This was Saturday. I was going over to Michigan State for my master's, and I was going to live on campus. And um, I thought here he had been up there working on his master's, and he was telling me on our first getting acquainted there of all these things that he had seen and done when he was on campus.
yeah.
Well, I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and he didn't call me or
Oh
he
boy.
didn't make any contact. And I thought, oh, gee, what? So I finally just sent him a postcard. I thought, well, I'm just going to do it. So I sent him a postcard and said I was enjoying the Red River, I think it was called, that went through
Red
East
Cedar
Lansing.
River. Red Cedar River. Yep.
And,
Yep. Yep.
he told me about the ducks, and so I just said, enjoyed the day with you, and so on. Well, within the next few days, I got home from or back to the dorm. My friend says, "Hey, you had a phone call. It's Bob, and he wants you to meet him at the student center. He wants to treat
Wow.
you to dinner." So I don't know if I asked him to dinner or not, but I did make kind of I don't know if that was the first follow-up visit, I guess, or whatever,
Huh.
by sending the card, giving him a little bit more nerve, I guess, to talk to me.
Oh,
So that kind of followed along the way that you were saying.
yeah.
And
Well,
this,
you did a wise thing to reach out in a casual way, a postcard. What is that?
yeah,
It's not
well, I had read
nothing
somewhere where,
risky about that, but you
yeah,
reconnected. You kind of
right, right. I would have died before I would have called him because I was very shy
well,
after those days too.
yeah, back in the day, right?
Uh-huh.
You know,
But
the
this
women
fellow that
didn't call
told
the
me,
men. The men had to be the ones to
right,
make the
but I
phone
had no
calls. And
idea that so many of the relationships really started with the woman. I met several
it's
guys that
interesting.
I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier that said he didn't know the first thing about uh, dating, at 60 or 70, wherever we were. And uh, I, he says, well, I said, well, tell me about, what happened. And so he told me how he had met his wife, and she had sent her brother down to tell him to ask her out. And then And he says, I don't remember ever asking her to marry me. He says, I think she asked me to marry her. And so I
Yeah.
thought, well, how many
No.
times did I fuss about trying to talk to start a relationship when other people were just taking the bulls by the horn and doing it,
Yeah.
But
And
when you
isn't
said
it
that,
better these days that you have the freedom, women have the freedom to take and make the first step.
mm-hmm,
And, if there is a genuine interest and that sort of thing, to express it rather than sitting by the phone lonely and days going by and wondering what's going on and
right.
what's happened here and that sort of thing. That's
Well,
a very bad system. If you ask me, that's a very bad system.
a couple of years ago, I went to a reunion. I think it was, well, right after I had written my book, or a year after I'd written my book. It
Okay.
was the first reunion I went to with that. And this, when they found out I had written and published a book, oh, wow, they wanted to know all about it. And then they were trying, I don't know, this guy seemed to be very interested in getting to know me. And for some reason, he gave me his card with his telephone number on it. So I debated, well, does that mean he wants me to call him? I didn't know what to do, but finally,
Hmm.
one night, one Sunday afternoon, I did call him, and he was watching a football game. And I
Hmm.
thought, yeah, okay. So he said, I'll call you back. Well, he never did. So there
Oh
was
dear.
adversity,
Oh dear.
I felt,
Oh boy. Yeah.
well, I said, you're lost, mister, and went on to the
Well,
next.
you tried, you tried. No harm in trying,
That's
you
right. I
know.
never did figure out why he gave me his card with his telephone number if he didn't want me to
He didn't
call
want you to call.
him. Oh, but
Maybe that's just a business transaction. Well, here's my card rather than here's my card. I'd really like to get to know you.
yeah, I guess that's what it was. But anyway, so much for that.
Yeah.
I,
Well, the opportunities that come to us every day, sometimes we don't feel like anything's falling in our lap. So maybe we have to create those opportunities. Maybe we have to
mhm,
take and make the first step and see what happens. And maybe someone's going to respond by taking the first step towards towards you, and or the one who's already trying and getting out there. Maybe there is someone who'd be willing and interested in responding. So, but you don't know until you try.
that's right. What? I think it was a Dale Carnegie course where my husband took, and they said to think about what is the worst thing that can happen,
The worst thing, huh?
and then ask yourself, can I live through that? Can I deal with that?
Oh,
And if the answer is yes, then go for it.
creating some perspective.
Hmm.
It's not the end of the world. You will not face physical harm, or someone not going to physically attack you, more than likely. I mean, you're
Hmm.
just trying to create a social opportunity. And
Right.
so might work. Blessings on you. What joy will come from that? Who
Mm.
knows? Might not. Well, okay. Well, we tried. Yeah.
So, is there some tip that we could give someone who is, I guess, I was afraid of rejection. You were afraid of rejection.
Certainly am. Certainly have been. Yeah.
So I think, well, that was one of the things that helped me is to thinking about, well, what's the worst thing that can
Yeah.
happen?
Right.
And going
Right.
on from
Right.
there, find out whether, well, is it worth it or not?
Right. Right. Right.
Decision.
It's
It's
only it's an honest answer. No, no, thank you. Okay. You know, no harm, no foul.
mm-hmm.
So learned something, and now who's next on my list? Who? All right, just thinking about who else is out there that is interesting, charming, enjoyable company, and that sort of thing. Maybe there is someone that you could turn to. Uh, kind of not on the rebound, but having someone say no, there might be someone else that has the same potentials that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. That when I started talking with Rick 2 years ago, Christmas time, I met him on a dating site, and we chatted. And he asked me, "What's your favorite book?" And I said, "Aha." So I started learning to dance in the rain, and he says, "Who's that?" And I said, "Well, me." Well, the next message that came back, he says, "I just bought your book."
Huh.
Uh,
Well,
I mean, this
that's
was
intriguing.
4 years after I had written it and
All right.
published. And as far as I knew, none of the other fellows that supposedly were interested in me, none of them felt enough to buy my book,
Huh.
to read my book. At least they didn't tell me that they did. So
Huh.
that was kind of a, aha.
Yeah,
And
really.
they did.
But there,
And of course, he had said in his profile that he was blind. And so I thought, well, how do you read a book when you're blind? Well, that's when I learned that he had a machine that reads for him.
oh, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, he's grandfathered in as one of the first Audible books buyer on Amazon. And
Really? Really? Huh.
really, he doesn't know how many hundreds of books that he has read or had
Huh.
read him
Huh.
on Audible. And I guess the Library of Congress gives free books, audiobooks to blind people. So if they can't
Really?
afford the monthly fee for Audible books, they can get books that are in the public domain or whatever, and have them
So
read them
someone in
also.
the Library of Congress has read your book and they've created an Audible book out of learning to
Well, I
dance in
don't
the rain
know,
for you.
know how long it takes for that to happen, but they have hundreds of thousands of books that
Huh.
people can get for free if they're blind. So that's, I think it's called BARD, BARD, but I'm not sure uh,
Okay.
all of the details on that. But so there he is, and he said, "I read your book," and then um, I guess it was a couple of weeks or a few days later. He says, "Yeah, I'm going to be reading my book, so I won't be talking to you."
Huh.
And then he came back and said how difficult it was to read because the story was so similar to his own story
Oh.
of his wife. Uh,
Oh.
Only he
So
had just lost her, like 8 months earlier, and
wow. Wow.
but
So much more
she had been very ill, and he took her to
fresh wound that he's dealing
right,
with. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Wow.
But then I said, well, my brother was coming to visit, so I said, I won't be talking to you for a while, or about a week. And then my brother got the wrong date that he was coming, and he
Oh.
didn't come that week. It was the next week he was coming.
Oh,
So,
for
and so it was about 2, 3 weeks that I didn't communicate with Rick. And
well.
so
Huh.
after my brother left, oh man, I was so alone. And I said, what about that guy and how? So I said, well, I finally went back, found it, and texted him on the site and said, uh, would you like to go to lunch maybe on Sunday after church? And how? And he says, yeah, but you'll have to pick me up and take me home. And I thought, no, no, I
Huh.
don't do that. No, you meet him at the restaurant. That's one of my rules on my book. You don't get in their car, or they don't get in your car until you get, better acquainted. Well, then, so then after fuming around a while before I replied, I went back to the dating site and found, oh, he's blind. Well, how else is he going to get there if you don't go pick him up?
Oh. Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I bent my rule and I said, well, they're just going to be friends. That I need a friend. So that was it. And one of my friends earlier had Parkinson's, and he had commented that people discount disabled people, as
Oh,
being
mm-hmm.
partners quite a bit. And so
Yeah,
he was kind of advocating that I push, remind people that, hey, these people want to be friends too. These people
right,
want,
right. They
yeah,
have social needs. They have personal needs,
right,
same as anyone else. Same,
well,
same as all of us.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, boy, after we had lunch that day, I think he's called me every single day since.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
You never know what
Mm-hmm.
you just I'm not, I just thought we would be friends, and 2 years later we're still together dating.
That's a good thing. It is a good thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. New
Oh,
every morning. New
new
every morning.
every morning. How many
I
people
think it's like the
think,
sunrise, to wake up with a hopeful heart and with a sunny disposition, or an expectant outlook, to be able to say, I've been given a gift here, and and something, I expect that something that is worthwhile is going to happen to me and to others, and interactions and that sort of thing. And to have that kind of a hopeful outlook, that sunny disposition, is, to expect that God is going to answer that particular scripture, your mercies are new every morning, and look for that form. How is God going to do that for me today? And
Mhm.
find it. Now, I look for pennies. I'm always looking for pennies on the ground. And I did that because I heard of a man that his sign from God, that God was blessing him, was that every day, no matter what, he always found a penny. One way or another, he found a penny. And he was involved in mission work, and he was going to different central to Mexico and Central American countries, doing mission work and building and hauling supplies down there and that sort of thing. And it was very remarkable that every day he found a penny. Like one time he was walking on a jungle trail in Guatemala, and he found a penny on the jungle trail, an American penny in the jungle trail in Guatemala. And one time he was hauling mission supplies down to Mexico, and from Michigan to Mexico, and he had two Christian brothers with him in the cab of his truck. And it was about 11:30 at night, and so far he hadn't found his penny. And his brothers in Christ started to razz him a little bit and say, "Well, I guess God doesn't love you. He's not going to give you. You're not going to get your penny today." And while they were giving him a hard time, all of a sudden, a penny dropped from the sky and landed on the hood of the truck of the
Oh my
semi,
God.
and it stayed there. And it stayed there, whang, and it stayed there. So
Oh,
I heard that story, probably about 20, 1990, 1991. I think it was 1991 when I went on my mass walk. It was a story someone told me about this praying man. And I thought, does God really bless me that much that I'd find a penny every day? And I started adding it up. One particular week, I found $1.35.
oh wow.
I found 3 quarters in the parking lot at Meijer, for instance, and a couple of other places. I found more money all in one week. And I thought, that's 135 days. That's 135 days. So I added up 135 days. That got me to the end of the year. And I started paying attention, because I don't find a penny every day. But when I did find a penny or a nickel or a dime, whatever, I would add it up. I finally quit. By February of the following year, I had been given enough pennies. I had found enough pennies and enough money to carry me all the way through August of that year. It was February, and I'd
Oh
already found enough money to give me a blessing every day to August. And then
wow.
when I was on vacation, I found a $10 bill. Well, that's 1,000 pennies.
Oh,
That's 1,000 pennies. That's 1,000 days. That's like 3 years.
uh-huh.
There's when I was working with the smaller churches, the smaller rural churches, and they didn't have a lot of money, they were always encouraging to give, but very often they'd say, you cannot outgive God. You cannot outgive God. And I think God's proven that to me. You don't think you've been blessed every day? Look, here's 1,000 days. Here's 1,000 days. So anyway, for me, that's a sign that I'm blessed, and it's a joyful time. Even if I find just 1 penny a week, to me, it's like, oh, I found my penny. I go home and I tell Jerry, I found my penny today. I found my penny today. But it gives me a joy, and I have a reason to be joyful and get up in the morning with a hopeful heart. So I'm glad for that. My faith really does that for me. My sense of God active in my life, that's what does that for me.
That reminded me of 2 stories.
Oh, well, see, back and forth.
Yeah, years ago, I read the story how people don't pick up pennies on the ground anymore. Or a lot of people don't pick up the pennies.
Yeah.
And so he started picking them up. And because on the coin it says, "In God we trust."
Yes. Okay.
Every penny you pick up. So one day, the person that was supposed to give the children's sermon in my church didn't know they were supposed to do it or whatever, or weren't there for whatever reason. And so pastor says, is there anybody that, could do a story on the spur of the moment? So I says, I can. And I says, first of all, does anybody have 3 pennies? Some pennies. And so I dug out one, I think, and he dug out one, and I had 3 pennies. There were 3 little boys came forward for the sermon.
Right.
And as they came forward, I threw them on the floor. And, every one of them picked them up and started to hand them back to me.
Oh,
And I says, I want you to hang on to that penny for a minute. I said, does anybody know what that penny says on it besides penny? And I don't remember if it was the kids or parents or whatever, but said, so whenever you see a penny, no matter where it is, you pick it up because it reminds you that it is in God we trust.
That's right. I
So
like that. I like that.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like that. And then my mother-in-law, after her husband passed away, and there was another lady in the neighborhood in Florida who was living alone. So they would call every morning and make sure the other was all right, and had made it through the night.
Yeah.
But she says, every morning when I wake up, I think this is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So
Exactly.
new every
Exactly.
morning.
So new
That
every
goes
morning.
along with that, I think.
Yeah.
Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these days when I'm coughing up a storm,
Oh, yeah. You've not been well the last week or
and
so.
my arthritis, I don't want to call it my arthritis, but arthritis is hurting in all my joints. And I think, oh dear, okay, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Exactly. So it's good to be reminded. Good to be reminded.
So, do we have any advice, or can we come up with something? Maybe someone who is not sure about their faith, or God's taking care of them, or what advice could we give them to get up and do something about their Is there
Well, I would say prayer would be, and maybe a specific kind of prayer, asking God to kind of show himself to the person who's not sure. God, if you're really there, that kind of prayer, if you're really there, can you show yourself to me today? Can you give me a sign? Or maybe there'll be an extra special, unexpected blessing that'll come today. Lord, I want you to be the one to show yourself to me one way or another. And start it out with a test and see will God answer that kind of a prayer? I think God is willing to do that. God wants to hear that kind of a challenge to God. God, if you're really there, then prove it. Prove yourself to me. Because God knows when we start out we're not sure about our faith, and we're young in our faith and that sort of thing. We're not certain about our faith. I think God understands that we're going to need more reassurance than someone who's been a disciple of Christ for decades, and they have seen God at work in many, many ways, countless ways. I've often said, that when we pray for healing in church, we pray with confidence, because there've been so many times we asked for people to be healed, and then lo and behold, they are healed. And I think God's proving to us that God hears that prayer and is willing to answer that prayer. And it just gives us greater confidence. God, I know you can do it. God, I know you can do it. I can remember early in my ministry, we were oftentimes running out of money. We didn't have large salary. The children were young. We had lots of expenses. We were paying student loans off. It was really a difficult time financially for us. There'd be times when I'd pay the bills and I'd look and see we didn't hardly have anything to go on to get through the week, to get to the next payday. How are we going to go grocery shopping, or how are we going to keep gas in the car, and that sort of thing? And I'd cry out to God, I don't know how please help. I don't, and one way or another, some miracle thing would happen, or maybe just the days would fly by, and suddenly it's another payday, and we didn't go hungry. We had plenty. We had enough food in the house. We had meals every day. The car didn't run out of gas, and God was able to provide. God was able to get us through. I mean, there's times I was so desperate, I was crying. I don't know how you're going to do it. And then God would do it. So after a long time, I began to say, again, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know you're going to do it because you've done this so many times. I have faith that you will see us through. And as long as we're careful, there's no reason to go out and rush around and waste our money and be stupid and that sort of thing, create problems. But I think if God knows we're being the best stewards of the gifts we are given, and we're trying our best and that sort of thing, God will help us and see us through. So that has been my faith learning experience. God, I don't know how you can do this because I don't see any way out. And then
Right.
God gives the way. But ask those kinds of prayers to say, God, show yourself and bless me in an unexpected way today. Show that you love me. Show that you love me. I think God wants to answer that kind of a prayer.
Thank you very much, Pastor. I really enjoyed talking with you about this. And I thank all of the listeners out there for hanging in there and listening to us to chat, and hope that we have inspired you in such a way, maybe to get back into the Bible, maybe to talk to your pastor, but to pray for whatever is bothering you. And
It's a
I'm
wonderful way to start.
Hopefully see you all next week. We'll be interviewing a ukulele and fiddle player.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll see all of you next week. And thanks again, Pastor. Bye now.
Thank you, Shelby.